The attack came without warning. One moment. 3 human colony worlds on the outer edge of human space were going about their ordinary lives. Farmers tending fields, workers managing supply lines, families sitting down for evening meals. The next moment, the sky above each of those worlds turned dark with ships, not human ships, enemy ships. The fleet belonged to the Vorrkai Dominion, one of the most powerful empires in the known galaxy, built over centuries of calculated expansion, conquest, and carefully chosen wars. They had never lost a conflict they started. They had never needed to. Leading the attack from his flagship was Grand Admiral Serath, tall, composed, and coldly intelligent. He had spent years studying humanity before making this decision. He had read every report, analyzed every conflict, examined every pattern in human military history, and he had reached one clear conclusion. Humans were too emotional, too scattered, and too slow to organize any meaningful response to a sudden, coordinated strike. By the time they recovered from the shock, the Dominion would already own the territory. The attack lasted less than 2 hours. All 3 colony worlds were overwhelmed quickly, their small defense forces outmatched by the sheer size and firepower of the Dominion fleet. Distress signals flooded outward across human space in every direction. Desperate, urgent, filled with fear and confusion. On his flagship, Serath watched the operation conclude with quiet satisfaction. Clean, fast, exactly as planned. Beside him stood Counselor Devon, his senior advisor, a quieter, more careful alien who had served in the Dominion's diplomatic corps for decades before joining the military command. Unlike Serath, Devon had spent his career studying species carefully before recommending action against them. He was not satisfied. He was worried. "Admiral," Devon said quietly, "I want to raise a concern about the human response timeline." Serath didn't look away from the victory display. "We've discussed this, Devon. Their fleets are scattered. Their government is slow. By the time they organize a meaningful response, we'll be fortified and immovable. That's what concerns me," Devon replied carefully. "Every assessment I've read about humanity focuses on their disorganization as a weakness. But their history tells a different story. Every time a civilization pushed them hard enough, humans responded in ways nobody predicted. Not always immediately, but always decisively." Serath finally turned to look at him, expression calm and unconvinced. "History is written by survivors. The humans will not survive long enough to write this chapter." Devon said nothing more. He had made his concern clear. Whatever happened next was no longer his decision. Far across human space, on a military observation station orbiting a quiet moon, an emergency broadcast arrived at the desk of Admiral Yara Kess. She was a compact, sharp-eyed woman with close-cropped gray hair and the kind of stillness that came not from calm, but from absolute focus. She read the distress signal once, then she set it down carefully on her desk. Around her, junior officers were already reacting loudly, raised voices, urgent questions, visible shock spreading across the room as the reality of 3 lost colonies sank in. The noise filled the station's command center completely. Kess let it go on for exactly 30 seconds. Then she spoke, quietly enough that her officers had to stop talking to hear her. "Close the open channels," she said. "All of them. Nothing goes out on any frequency until I authorize it personally." The room went silent almost immediately. Officers exchanged uncertain glances but moved quickly to follow her orders. "Pull every available ship within 4 sectors," Kess continued, her voice steady and unhurried. "Quietly. No formation broadcasts, no fleet signals, no announcements. Individual orders to each captain directly." Another officer, young and visibly shaken, raised his hand.
"Admiral, shouldn't we broadcast a response?"
"Let the Dominion know we're aware of the attack. Make a formal statement to the galactic community?" Kess looked at him for a brief moment before answering. "Why?" she asked simply. The officer blinked. "To show them we're responding, that we're not going to accept this." "We're going to show them that," Kess said quietly. "We're just not going to announce it first." She turned back to her own display, already pulling up fleet positioning maps, supply line routes, and Dominion territorial data. Her mind was moving quickly, quietly, and with complete focus, building a picture of exactly what needed to happen next, and in exactly what order. Outside the station's viewports, space looked exactly as it always had, quiet, dark, and utterly still. But somewhere across that darkness, 3 human worlds were burning under Dominion occupation, and the distress signals carried the voices of people who had trusted that space around them was safe. Kess heard those voices clearly. She set them aside, not because they didn't matter, but because grief was something that came after. Right now there was only the work. She opened the first of many quiet, direct communications to individual fleet captains scattered across human space, each one carefully worded, each one carrying the same simple core instruction. Move. Now. Tell no one. The galaxy would hear from humanity soon enough. Just not yet. 3 days passed after the Dominion's attack on the human colonies. 3 days of almost complete silence from human space. Grand Admiral Serath had expected many things from humanity in the aftermath of the strike. Angry broadcasts, emotional speeches, desperate pleas for negotiation, perhaps even some disorganized military movement. He had prepared responses for all of these scenarios carefully before launching the attack. What he had not prepared for was silence. No declarations of war, no public statements, no emergency sessions broadcast across open galactic channels, no human military movements detected on any long-range scanner. Just a quiet, heavy stillness stretching across human territory that Serath's intelligence teams couldn't fully explain. He found it mildly unusual at first. By the end of the second day, he found it genuinely strange. By the third day, Counselor Devon was standing in his office with an expression Serath had rarely seen on his advisor's face before. Concern. Real concern. They haven't said anything publicly, Devon said quietly, studying the intelligence feeds. No open channel communications. No fleet broadcast signals. No emergency government sessions on monitored frequencies. Which means they're panicking privately, Serath replied, though his voice carried slightly less confidence than it had 3 days earlier. Or, Devon said carefully, it means they're communicating on frequencies we're not monitoring, through channels we haven't identified, which would mean their silence isn't confusion, it's discipline. Serath considered this for a moment. You think they're planning something already? I think, Devon said slowly, that we may have significantly underestimated how quickly they can organize when properly motivated. Serath dismissed this concern with practiced confidence, though somewhere beneath that confidence a small, uncomfortable doubt had begun to take shape. Meanwhile, far across human space, Admiral Kess was anything but silent. Within hours of receiving the distress signals from the 3 lost colonies, she had already set the first stages of her response in motion, quietly, efficiently, and completely outside any frequency the Dominion's intelligence teams were monitoring. Every communication had gone through encrypted direct channels. Every ship movement had been conducted individually, without formation broadcasts or fleet-wide signals. By the end of the first day, she had recalled nearly 40% of available human ships from surrounding sectors without the Dominion detecting a single movement. By the end of the second day, supply lines had been quietly rerouted, forward positions repositioned, and a detailed tactical picture of the Dominion's current fleet distribution had been assembled from long-range intelligence feeds. By the end of the third day, Admiral Kess had a complete operational plan sitting on her desk, reviewed, adjusted and approved by her senior commanders through the same quiet, encrypted channel she had been using since the first hour. She gathered her officers for a final briefing. The room small and the group tight, only the people who absolutely needed to be there. The Dominion hit 3 colonies expecting a slow, emotional response, she told them, her voice calm and direct. They studied our history and concluded we're disorganized under pressure. They're not entirely wrong most of the time. But not this time. She pulled up the tactical display, Dominion fleet positions, supply routes, communication relay locations, all carefully marked and color-coded. Their fleet is designed for overwhelming frontal power, she continued. Heavy ships, strong shields, massive firepower in a direct engagement, which means we don't give them a direct engagement. We don't hit them where they're strong. We hit everything that keeps them strong. A young commander studied the display carefully. Supply lines, communication relays, forward support positions. Exactly, Kess said. We don't fight their fleet. We make their fleet irrelevant by removing everything supporting it. By the time they realize what's happening, they'll be cut off, undersupplied, and unable to call for reinforcement. She paused, letting the strategy settle across the room. We don't announce this, she added. We don't broadcast warnings, ultimatums, or declarations. We move first. We talk later. Back on the Dominion flagship, Serath received a report from his intelligence team late on the third day. A minor note buried near the bottom of a routine update. 3 human supply vessels, originally tracked moving through a nearby sector, had quietly changed course and were no longer on expected routes. Individually, this meant nothing. Supply ships rerouted constantly for countless ordinary reasons. Davan, reading the same report, caught the detail immediately. He pulled up the tracking records himself, cross-referencing the timing of the rerouting against the attack on the colonies. All 3 ships had changed course within 6 hours of the attack. Not days later, not after public announcements or government decisions. Within hours, as if someone had already issued clear, calm instructions the moment the distress signals went out. He set the report down slowly, staring at the data for a long, quiet moment. "Admiral," he said carefully, "I need you to look at something." Serath glanced over, mildly impatient. "What is it?" Davan turned the report toward him, pointing to the timing details without saying anything further. Serath studied the numbers. The impatience on his face shifted slowly into something